So now we have, when the app first loads, it's going to make a call to Django to get all the settings for the app. So now what we're going to do is in the app, we're going to start making changes to the app with those settings. Okay? And so let's see, we don't have any style sheets set up yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Components. Yeah, components. And then I'm going to add one here. Let's see, new folder. It's going to be styles. And let's see. So we're going to do, I typically add a few style files in here. So I'll do stuff like buttons or margins or fonts, that sort of thing. For this, we're just going to do, we'll set this one as container settings. So we're going to do a new file, containers.js. And that's going to be our styles for our containers. And let me just take a look here. So we are going to import style sheet from ReactNative, and we're going to import the dimensions. We're not going to use this right away, but we will later, and it's a very useful object to have. React. Okay, I don't know why I'm doing that twice. Style sheet and dimensions. We're also going to import React and use context in here. React, I believe. Let me double check that. I think that's wrong. Oh, okay. Cool. And we are going to do export default style sheet dot create. And now within here is where all of our styles are going to be. So I'll show you in a second how we set those up. We're also going to add, forgot about this, we're going to add our global context to it. So we're just going to kind of copy and paste this into here. And we're going to import our context. Now we need to verify this is correct. So we are in the styles folder. Let's look at this. Go back into components and then into global context. Yeah, that should work. And then in here we're going to do app settings. Control S. Okay. So in here we're just going to create our first container. This is going to be like the, we actually already have, I believe, not in there. Let's see. App.js style. Okay, so we didn't actually create a style for that. So we're going to change this in a second. So we're going to do main app container. It's going to be the main face of this, or background, or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set defaults, but we're also going to set it to work with settings. So I'm going to have background color set to, so this is going to be if app settings background color exists, and then we're going to use that. Otherwise, we are going to just set a default of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of that. And then same with the foreground color. So we're just going to copy this. And foreground color is usually just color. Oh, we need a comma in there. And then foreground color. Foreground color. So the foreground color we might have to apply to the individual text or the fonts, but for now, this will just kind of throw it in there. We're going to save that, and now we are going to import this into app.js. So import, see how, I'm going to take a look here. Containers, oops, from components, styles, containers.js. And then the style for this is going to be containers.main app container. Save that, and let's just see what happens. Alright, so there is an error. Hooks can only be called inside the body of a function component. Okay, so that has to do with over here. Okay, so we're gonna make a few changes here. We're gonna do, I'm gonna get rid of this. We're gonna do constant containers equals, and then we're gonna pass in our app settings here. And then we're gonna continue on to style sheet. And then with that change, we are going to have to export default containers. Okay. And then we're actually gonna remove the context from here. And let's save that. Okay, so we made a few changes here. Take a look here. We added constant containers, containers, and we're going to import app settings into our style sheet. And then in app.js, we went ahead and put this back to flex of 1. And then in our landing page is where we're going to import the styles. And our main view is going to have the style of containers dot main app container. Actually, we're just going to do outer page. So we're going to rename this. So we're in here, outer page, and it looks like we need to fix the URL there. Okay, so we have that. Now we need to pass app settings into our style sheet. So let's take a look here. We're going to do containers app settings dot outer page. Let's see if that works. It did not. Okay, undefined is not. It did work, but now we have containers. So background color did not exist when it rendered, and so let's take a look here. Let's try something. Background color, color in app settings. See if that worked. Okay, undefined is not an object. So it looks like app settings is not showing up as an object, which is odd. Let's console.log app setting, let's see, JSON. There's some other error. Let's see. Something odd is going on here. We'll go ahead and change this one to foreground color in app settings. Okay, let's see. Oh, there we go. We need to export app settings and set app settings just in case. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so we forgot to export app settings from the global context, so it's having a problem finding app settings. So now we have background color. So if the background color is an option in the app settings, we're going to use it. Otherwise, use the default. And same with foreground color. Otherwise, we're going to use the default, which actually should not be that. Should be that. So now you'll see we're using the background color, but it's white and it's not taking up the entire page. We want to set this as, let's see, a comma here. So the height is going to be dimensions dot, what exactly is it? Just a second. There we go. Dot get. Oops. Window dot height. And we're going to do the same thing for the width. So what this is basically it's going to take up the entire height of the window and the entire width of the window. Okay? So that is excuse me. Alright, so that is that. So excuse me. Don't know if I have, yes. So I'm going to open up my DB browser for SQLite, and we're going to open up our Django database, so that way we can change the settings really quick. So let's just see if I can drag it over. Okay. So let's see, app settings.setting. Let's modify the table. And nope, not what I want. Let's browse the table then. Okay, so we have background color. So let's change this to let's search, let's see, color hex.com. This is a great source for different colors. Let's set it up in dark mode initially, so we'll use 3s. So we will change this value to there, and we're going to apply it. And let's see, we're going to set that to F instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Apply. So the app, when it's running off default, will be like white and black. But if we run the app again and it repulls those settings, it should change the background. So let's just see. Does not look like the database fully updated. So we start Django, just see. We're gonna reload the app. Okay, so it's still pulling the old values. Let's take a look here. Oh. Okay, we're gonna write those changes. Now let's try it again. Oops. I got a lot of windows open. Reload. Okay, there it goes. So we forgot to write the changes to the database. So it's using black font with gray background. Why is it that it's not using the new foreground color? Well, let's take a look at that. So in our landing page, we're not telling it what style to use. So we're going to create a new style. Let's see. We're going to actually duplicate containers. And we're going to rename this fonts. And let's open that up. Okay. So we're going to change that to fonts. We're going to import app settings still. Fonts. And this is going to be, let's set a H1. We don't need a background color on there. We don't need a height or width. And we're going to tell it to use the foreground color that's in the app settings. Otherwise, use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That. So we're going to save that. And then in our landing, we're going to import that. So that's our fonts from fonts.js. So here we're going to do style equals fonts app settings. Again, we got to pass that in. dot h1. So we're going to set hello user as our h1 font. We save that, and there we go. But we haven't told it, you know, h1's typically your bigger font, so we're going to do a font size, I believe is the correct one. So like 34, and there we go. And maybe add font weight of like 700. Oops. There we go. Reload. Oh, come on. First app. Okay, so it does not like that. So let's just say bold. And try again. There we go. Okay, so we have a bolded, and then also typically in H1 is going to be centered. So let's see. Text align, center, and then we want width to be 100% so it spans the full width, and then centers it. There we go. So now let's add on here just our P font, like our paragraph font, and same thing here. We'll do a foreground color, and then we're going to do a font size of 12, which is pretty common for a paragraph. And I think that's, let's see, width of 100%. And there we go. So now oh yeah, we've got to go into landing. We're going to set the style for this at fonts app settings .p. Okay, that's about all we're going to go into today. We covered a lot more than I planned to, but the gist of this was to get into app styles, getting into fetch calls. Something you can do later, and we might change this later, is to see in our fonts, instead of just having one foreground color, you can have like your foreground, your primary foreground, your secondary foreground, that sort of thing. So that way all of your fonts are different colors, but are within the same color scheme. But in this video, you got to see how to create a fetch call and how to set things up to use the data from that fetch call. And in Django, we created the model and kind of got everything set up. So in the next video, we'll probably walk through user login and capturing user data and that sort of thing within Django and React Native.